What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel here at Sector 32 Motorsports. Behind me, you can see this beautiful 720S. This actually belongs to a great customer of ours, Ty Turnt. He's actually the main leader at Daily Driven Exotics ATL. You guys might have seen his car before. He had this really cool little color shift 570S that we've done quite a bit of work on, but it's time to move on, keep up with the times. So he did so with this beautiful MSO built 720 that's behind us here. So we're going to take you guys behind the scenes and deep down into this car. There's a few little issues that we found here and there with it, so we're going to go ahead and get those things rectified. The big thing I really want to show you guys is the repair that we're going to be doing on the Bank 1 turbo manifold. So we have seen in the past, there has been a few issues with those where they will start to crack around the flange where the runner meets. So in this instance, instead of replacing this unit, we're going to go ahead and repair it. There is no other aftermarket option for this as of right now, so unfortunately this is the only way that we can go. We have seen these issues in the past, like I said, so hopefully we don't see this issue after this again after we make the repair. But stay tuned, guys. Again, beautiful MSO car. The spec is awesome on it. The interior is matching. This is actually the Lamborghini Verde Ithaca paint scheme to match with the interior as well. But a beautiful spec, awesome car. We actually did the upgrade on this car about 3 years ago. We did this upgrade, Mike? 3 years ago, upgrade? Yeah. 2020? Wow. Shows what I know. So the system currently already has a full Rift exhaust system, I believe, on it. Catback full system on it, turbo inlets, and of course an M Engineering tune on the vehicle. So super cool to see this car continue. Again, we're going to be doing some awesome upgrades on this car as the time goes on, such as some body work, suspension, and different wheel options that we're going to entertain a little bit. I don't know what Ty wants to do when it comes to the wheels, but it'll be pretty cool. You guys know Ty. So please enjoy the show. Let's get at it. All right, guys, so as you see, we already have the rear glass removed out of here with the access panel from the interior removed as well. So the next big step that we're doing on this car, the first step we're doing on this car is actually going to be replacing the oil filter housing, or what is called the V module. We found during one of the concerns that there is a fluid leak that is going on one of the, kind of like a freeze plug or a plug itself. I thought I had another one here I can show as a replication, but I think we might have tossed it, so never mind. Anywho, it's hard to see in the car right now with the video, but once we get it out, I'll be able to show you guys exactly what that looks like. So of course, with that being said, all of this up top here has to come out. So these are the charge pipes from the intercooler, intake manifold. I'm going to remove the throttle body so I'll be able to gain access down to the bolts for the manifold itself. I have a few vacuum lines that are going to have to get out of the way as well, and removing of the fuel lines also. While we're up here, we're going to be replacing the coils and the spark plugs and a few of the Oetiker clamps that are quite known to failure on the McLarens. So we will get that knocked out. Once we're done up top here, getting the coils, plugs, and the oil filter housing all taken care of, we'll work our way down to the clutch cooler line following that. That job is not too difficult. It's pretty straightforward. And then once we're done with those two items, we'll be switching down over there to the turbo manifold and seeing what all that looks like. So let's follow along with me. Guys, so we have the intake manifold removed off of the 720 here, and as you can see, the view is quite different from where we started at. So I'll give you guys a quick rundown on some of the components that are in here, right? So first things first, you're probably wondering what these two pipes are sitting right here coming in. These are actually the thermostats. They are electronically monitored here back to the ECU. So you have two connectors that'll mount on top. When you replace the thermostats in these, you'll actually get the housing as well as the actual thermostat, which looks fairly traditional underneath. Moving over here to this side, this is actually the cooler for the oil. So you have your oil filter housing, but this is also the cooler for your oil as well. So these two units kind of mate together, if you will, and then they will actually mount down onto the top of the engine. So they call this the hot V, or not the hot V, sorry. They call this the V module, specifically because it's sitting down between the V of the engine here. So you have a couple of little vacuum lines and stuff that'll sit up top here for your PCV, and then you have, again, your intake tubes here off of your charge coolers. There's a couple of temperature sensors that'll sit up top here, and then you also have down here are your NOx sensors. You have a total of 4 of the NOx sensors that are sitting down here, 2 on either side. And that'll basically give us the understanding of if we have any internal issues to the engine. Outside of that, it's pretty cut and dry, not anything too crazy. So we're going to continue forward, and we're going to go ahead and get this unit removed. If you take a look, you can actually see, it might be a little bit difficult to get down there, but you can actually see some oil that has built up down there a little bit. But also on top of the oil filter housing, you can see where the oil has started to build up on either side there. That's actually causing our issue. And what will happen is the oil will actually start to pool up on either side here. And when you go to accelerate, it'll fall down on either side of the engine, causing a drip depending on how bad the leak is. So luckily we're getting this taken care of, so Ty doesn't have any issues with this in the future. And again, we'll also rectify the issues that we're having with the clutch cooler after that. The clutch cooler does have an issue further down on the left-hand lower side of the engine. So it wouldn't add anything to do with any of the leaks that are seen up top here. So we'll get this moving forward, and I will show you what it looks like once we get the oil filter housing removed. Alrighty guys, we got the oil filter housing removed, and as you can see down here, I'll even shine a little bit of light. It is pretty nasty. This is just a kind of a combination of having removal, but also the buildup that has accumulated from all the leaking that has been done from the oil filter housing itself. So what I'm going to do is do a nice round of cleaning right now. I'm going to go ahead and go through every little piece here and make sure it's all nice and spotless with what we have going on here. And once I'm all done, I'll prep the surfaces. The new oil filter housing will come with new O-rings, new gaskets. So we'll make sure all that stuff is put on and ready to go. If you want to come over here and take a look, I will show you the oil filter housing itself. So as you see underneath here, there are a couple of different passages for your oil cooler going through the actual oil filter housing. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to have a section of oil that'll travel through this upper cooler here. Also, that's fed with coolant. So basically it'll kind of just travel from one end to the other, cooling itself down with a lower temperature coolant that'll be inside of this. That'll come straight out of the radiator. Inside of here is your oil filter, and this is where it houses. This is also the feed for the transmission gearbox that's on this back side here. So this line will travel off of the back of this housing, travel down towards the gearbox cooler and through the gearbox. Then it will return back into the side of the engine. So there's no need to change the cooler. The cooler is working fine. It's really just this housing. So we're going to separate the cooler from the housing, and then we'll install the new one. right, guys, we have finished doing the oil filter housing. We got everything all nice and cleaned, put back together up top there. So now we're gonna move on over to the clutch cooler. The clutch cooler line that has had the issue is actually this one here. The issue is actually further down this way over here. So the hose ended up rubbing against the turbocharger bracket up there where the wastegate mounts. It's kind of difficult to see, but it's kind of up in there. It's kind of a little bit far, but right where the wastegate actuator sits is where this has been running against and causing the issues. So it's a little tight. I know it's going to be very hard to show you guys kind of how all this is set up, but essentially this is exactly how this piece will mount up as it goes back into the car. There is one bolt that'll mount to the top of the transmission where the clutch basket sits at, and then this line runs forward to the car to one of the LTRs, which is the front low temp radiators. So we're going to go ahead and get geared up to go ahead and get this replaced, all right? All right, guys, so we got the turbo pushed back here to give us access to the exhaust manifold. I just wanted you guys to kind of see what we're looking at here before I remove it. As you can see across the bottom of the cylinder head on this side, looks pretty clean, right? Don't really see anything, but as you travel across, you kind of see some carbon buildup right there, looking like it's coming off of the number cylinder, what is that? Cylinder number 3. You can see right across there that there looks to be an issue. So, like I said, we're going to proceed forward with getting this manifold removed on out of here, and we're going to go ahead with the repair process so we can get this back to tie ASAP. So we're going to place this here in the press really quick just so we can hold it down and kind of take a look at it. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Vice, not the press. Thank you, Mike. Alrighty, so as you guys can see right there, you could see where something looks like it's been just kind of spitting out right against the actual runner itself and the flange. But it's better to be seen than anything. So if you go on the other side here of the flange, I'm going to shine the light, and it's going to be so faint, but right inside of here over to this corner here, I don't know if you could see it or not, but you have a little bit of light coming through. It's very faint, but you can definitely see it.
Move it around a little bit. You can see it earlier.
Good?
Nope, you don't see it. There you go.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
So right there you guys can see where it's basically blowing out the weld on the inside there and slowly breaking through. And what it's doing is actually shooting out of this side, and it's going to kind of make a weird little puttering noise, if you will, out of the exhaust. But over time it's going to continue to crack this, and ultimately it's going to cause a boost leak as time continues. So obviously we do not want to have this happen. So we are going to go ahead and bring this right on over to the sonic cleaner to get this cleaned up as best as we can. We want to try to get as much carbon removed out of this as possible. So when Joe welds it, it's actually a nice clean weld, and we don't have to worry about basically where the weld lays over this cracked area here, it actually having an issue again in the future. So let's get this over to the sonic cleaner and get that process going for Joe.
Those two small baskets on top.
Yeah. What are you pulling with?
Your hands.
Is it cold enough to pull with the hands?
Yeah.
Don't be a No, I ain't. I'm I ain't doing that.
Man, just pull his out, dog.
Shit, my luck, these be 100 damn degrees.
No, leave that. They're 150 degrees. Exact. It's 150 degrees to be exact.
So if you don't know what a sonic cleaner is, this basically uses a vibration to actually help break away any of the buildup that you see in here. So it's actually very hot water, so we do not want to dip our hands off in this without having any type of protection. But basically all it's going to do is use vibrations, high temperature, to actually go ahead and break a lot of this material off of here. So we're actually going to do about 3 or 4 cycles of this just to make sure it's taken care of. Probably after the second cycle, I would say, I'm going to take a wire wheel in here and just try to clean up as much as I can. Carbon will break down into any little tiny groove of this material here, any of the metal here. So again, like I said, for when Joe is ready to weld this stuff, we want it to be as clean as possible so the weld actually sticks. So let's go ahead and get this thing on in here. Oof, hot.
That shit's hot.
It is hot. Start the cycle. So, Joe got this thing wrapped up in a jiffy early this morning. So, as you can take a look, each of the runners all got re-welded back on in here. So you can see everything is looking nice and buttoned up pretty well here. So, again, we will go ahead and get ready to reinstall this piece back in the car, make sure everything is sitting properly. But we took the extra precaution to make sure we welded all of the runners this time. Even though we normally see, in this case here, this is how the manifold will mount in the car, we always see the issue on cylinder 3 and cylinder 4. So we took extra precaution, like I said, and just did even 1 and 2. We do the outside, as you can see there, as well as on the inside of the flange as well. So this here should be pretty damn good to go. So I'm going to start getting this thing reinstalled in the car, guys. All right, guys, we are all finished with Ty's car. As you can see behind us, she is literally ready to go, and I got Ty here with me right now. He's actually coming to pick the car up. Everything worked out phenomenally. Manifold came out crisp after Joe did all his welding work. Everything looks great. We got everything installed. We will have Ty back. We have a few little extra things that we're going to be adding to the car such as some WiseTech blow-off valves, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah.
Valves, yeah.
Yep. So it'll be super cool once we get the car back so we can add even more to this car. But I wanted to have Ty come in here and just kind of explain a little bit about transitioning from the 570 to the 720. But overall, your experience so far with the 720, what do you feel the major difference is between the two cars? I mean, granted, I know you do have on one hand 570 was a sport series. The 720 is a super series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, both cars are modified. We actually did the build on this car.
Both of them,
Yeah, we actually did the build on this one a couple of years back. So it's actually kind of awesome to know that our upgrades continue to trade hands. So you went from a modified 570S, right, to now a modified 720. But overall, what is your whole outlook on both platforms? Pros, cons, if you have any cons, that is. Overall, your full experience.
All right, so I'll say this. If you don't know, I daily drove the McLaren 570S for 2 years. Modified over 700 crank McLaren 570S for 2 years straight, and basically had no major issues with it, right? And thanks to these guys, they kept it going, they kept it super solid, they kept it daily drivable, right? And I loved it. It was an awesome experience. But the moment I got into this, it completely changed the experience. Derek's been talking to me for a long time about getting into a 720. I've been talking to him for a long time about, I think I want to get into a 720. So when the timing lined up and I finally hopped into it, I'm sorry, there's no turning back.
Right.
Again, the 570 is an amazing car. It's super solid. I mean, compared to any other kind of car, it's a unique one-of-one driving experience, but there are levels to this stuff, man. There are levels to this stuff. And quite honestly, we have even more planned for this. This is not stock at all. We have, again, some fun upgrades like the blow-off valves. We have some tech upgrades coming too as well to it, which I think you spoke about recently.
Yep.
And then we have some other goodies like what's behind you. Don't show them, but like what's behind you over there. We're gonna be adding some of that to the car as well. So yeah, this is a new beast. This is a new chapter. Glad to have this in the garage, and we have something else exotic coming pretty soon too that I also need you to spice up as well.
Cool. Yeah. Man. But all in all, power wise, give me the breakdown on the feeling, the sensation that this car gives you versus the 570. Granted, like I said, it is Sports Series to Super Series, but it's always better to hear it when somebody is actually upgrading. They actually have been in a car, like you said. You drove that thing 2.5 years every damn day. Yep. So hopping into this, what goes through your mind? Is it like, man, this is a much more of a handful, right? This thing makes quite a bit of power.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what differences, right? And is it good? Is it bad?
Oh, it's scary.
Yeah.
No, it's
I'm not
scary.
gonna do this to you. I'm not gonna post horsepower numbers,
Yeah,
right?
no,
I'm not gonna
don't
do
post
any of
numbers,
that. But I know it's definitely she's moving.
Yeah,
she's moving.
It's not stock. I'll tell you this: this thing's not stock. It has multiple maps. It is a very, 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 very unique monster. There are modes that need race gas, and I don't want to mess with that personally. That's all I'm going to say. So
He's just saying that for the camera.
Yeah, just for the camera. Yeah, I keep it 5 below the speed limit at all times. But I will say this though: even at its lowest map, this thing is a completely different monster.
Right.
It's weird. It's smoother. It handles significantly. It feels sharper, more responsive, crisp. Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a beast. So I can't imagine just how the 765s, the Sennas, the things like that are doing because this.
Oh, yeah.
It's an absolute beast.
Right.
So.
And the biggest thing is like McLaren did a great job making the 570 in my mind. Right. I feel like for people that are getting into the supercar world, getting into a car like that, I feel like is amazing. Right.
Huge difference, yeah.
Yeah,
because I've had AMG GTS, I've had an R8 as well, and other like sporty cars, and even from a Gen 2 R8 or even the AMG, I had a tuned AMG GTS as well, right? The 570 was still like, it's leagues, right? So I absolutely recommend the 570. For sure.
Yeah, transitionally wise speaking, right? Like you're slowly moving up the ranks, so it's definitely a great thing that you got into the McLaren 570. You learned that product very well. That got you into the McLaren, right?
Yeah.
The brand itself.
Yep.
And you've loved it. It's worked out great. But now it's time to make the next step. Yeah. So the real thing is this, though, right? You got the 720. I expect you to keep this probably around the same time.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, a step from this, I don't know. Listen, let me just say somebody in the family is getting a hypercar soon. So if everything works out in 2 years, maybe I can buy that from them.
Hey.
I don't know. hopefully. But I mean, I don't know. Like when I was getting the 570, I was stuck between either getting a 570 or a Lamborghini Huracan 610-4.
Yep.
That's gonna buy it from the same person, right? So we had brief conversations about buying their Lambo. Then the conversation went strictly to their McLaren, and it just kind of stayed there. I did it. Haven't looked back since.
Right.
I'm so glad I went into it. You know, if you want to be fast, you get a McLaren, right? Want to be cool, get a Lambo. But, yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, again, I appreciate you coming in, letting us work on this beautiful vehicle. Like I said, we had fun. We showed a lot of our viewers and stuff, kind of the behind the scenes of what it takes to work on these cars. And some of let's be real, these cars are not perfect. Just because you see them as a supercar doesn't mean that they're never going to have issues, okay? And we showed it, right? But again, I don't want people to be afraid, right? If you get into these cars, they're not crazy, man. If you don't treat them right, if you don't maintain them, yeah, you're going to have some issues for sure. But you go through the rigmarole with any vehicle. But at the end of the day, like I said, you guys got a really awesome, behind the scenes look at this car, the full breakdown, showing you a lot of stuff that can be issues, but again, not detrimental.
Yeah, just to add to it too, like again, people have this negative connotation about McLarens. Like I said, they're not perfect, right?
Exactly.
This isn't a Honda Civic. It's not an
Exactly.
Altima. You're not going to,
Exactly.
it's going to have its issues, but they're still solid. Even with the issues I was having here, perfectly drivable. Like it didn't have there's the crack on the manifold, right? Yeah. I mean that.
It just made some noise.
Made a little bit of noise, but the car's still solid.
Yeah.
Still gonna gap that stock R8 easily. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
The cars can be solid as long as you take care of them.
Yeah.
Follow their instructions as far as your maintenance schedules. You'll be solid. Again, I daily drove my McLaren for 2 years. From my understanding, this is actually even more solid platform than the 570. So, it's doable. Shouldn't be afraid to grab one if you want to get one. Just make sure you have a good tech. So.
Awesome, guys. Well, again, I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Always remember, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them down in the comments below. You guys also will have our direct contact, so if you want to reach out to me personally, or even if you guys have questions for Ty, maybe as time goes on, you're curious to know what's next or how he's feeling with the car, you guys can also find him on Instagram if you want to drop your handle.
Yep, Ty Turnt, TYTURNT is where you'll find the vehicles.
Also, guys, check out Daily Driven Exotics ATL. These guys here in Atlanta, Ty has held this crew down, has done an amazing job.
About a decade now.
Yeah, man.
Sorry, DDATL Exotics. Yeah, Daily Driven ATL.
My bad.
Yeah, and it's not like the Canadian YouTubers or anything like that. We have a group called Daily Driven ATL. It's an all-inclusive car group that's been around for about a decade, right before the hype around the Canadian West Coast YouTubers. And we made an exotics branch of it, so it was just DDATL Exotics, right? So
there you go.
no similarities, just a cool car club out here full of pretty awesome people. If you're getting into a supercar exotic, just go ahead and message the Instagram page. Myself or one of the admins will message you, reply back, and bring you out. We have a lot of actual awesome events. You're coming out tonight.
Yeah.
Yep.
A
lot
tonight
of
we
awesome,
got one.
events,
Super dope.
Dinners, cruises, rallies, mountain drives, the whole 9 yards. So we'd love to have you if you guys are joining the exotic scene in your new McLaren.
Awesome, guys. Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys later.